Qwen just moved its largest model yet from preview to general availability, giving builders a 2.4 trillion parameter Mo-E with native image and video input at published per token pricing. This is Models and Agents, episode 130. Alibaba's Qwen team released Qwen 3.8 Max, a 2.4 trillion parameter mixture of experts model that accepts text, image, and video across a 1 million token context. DeepSeek launched an ultra-low-cost model that research firms say undercuts every well-known competitor on inference price. OpenAI claims its next model, referred to as Astra, produced breakthroughs on 10 previously unsolved math problems. Cogent AI released VR1, a purpose-built cyber reasoning model that ships with its own enterprise intrusion benchmark. The Qwen release continues the rapid cadence of large open-weight releases that close the gap with proprietary systems we tracked yesterday. Alibaba's Qwen team moved Qwen 3.8 Max from preview to general availability today. They published per-token pricing while open weights are scheduled for next week. The 2.4 trillion parameter Mo-E accepts text, image, and video input with a 1 million token context window. No benchmark table was released with the announcement, so direct comparisons to other frontier models remain limited for now. Builders working on multimodal agents or long context retrieval can now test the model through the existing Qwen API without waiting for weights. Watch for the weight drop next week and any early independent evals that surface. DeepSeek released a new model positioned as the cheapest option among well-known models to run, according to research firm analysis. The announcement follows the pattern of DeepSeek repeatedly targeting inference cost as the primary differentiator. No parameter count, context length, or benchmark numbers were disclosed in the initial coverage. Builders focused on high-volume, low-margin applications should test the new endpoint this week to measure real cost against current providers. OpenAI stated that its upcoming model, referred to internally as Astra, produced solutions to 10 mathematical problems that had seen no progress for at least a decade. The claim centers on long-horizon reasoning rather than standard benchmark saturation. No details on model size, training approach, or whether the solutions were independently verified have been released. Teams working on formal mathematics or theorem-proving tooling should monitor the next public release for concrete evaluation data. Cogent AI released VR1, a model post-trained specifically for cybersecurity rather than acquiring capability as a side effect of general coding. The release includes Intrusion Bench, which scores agents on completed enterprise intrusions, and the Cogent AI Harness, a governed runtime for security agents. The approach targets explicit attack path composition and verification instead of broad tool use. Security teams evaluating autonomous red team tooling now have a dedicated benchmark and runtime to test against. Simon Willison asked for the ability to trigger custom MCP tool calls directly through ChatGPT voice on iPhone. The request highlights the gap between current voice interfaces and the growing ecosystem of personal MCP servers. No implementation details or timelines were provided. Developers building personal automation stacks should watch for any official MCP voice integration in the coming weeks. A recent analysis examines the remaining barriers to fully autonomous agents, focusing on reliability and oversight requirements. It notes that current systems still need human escalation paths for complex or high-stakes decisions. Teams deploying agents in production should continue prioritizing control plane designs. Another piece argues that production-grade agent deployments require an explicit control plane for monitoring, governance, and rollback. It positions this layer as a prerequisite rather than an optional add-on. Operators planning multi-agent systems should treat control plane design as a first-class architectural decision. Andrei Karpathy shared a browser-playable version of the Pelican on Bicycle test originally posted by Simon Willison, along with a teaser for a GTA-style Hobbiton scene. The demo lets users fork and run the test locally. The post also references an earlier 6-month LLM retrospective. Builders interested in visual consistency testing now have an immediately runnable example to extend. GSK entered a research collaboration with Relation Therapeutics worth up to $110 million to generate large-scale datasets of human cell responses to genetic changes and drug interventions. The data will train AI models for drug discovery. The agreement expands existing work between the two organizations. Teams working on biological foundation models should track the resulting datasets when they become available. Simon Willison noted that the newly available Qwen 3.8 Max appears distinct from the earlier preview version. The clarification helps developers distinguish between the two checkpoints when running comparisons. Anyone benchmarking Qwen models this week should confirm they are using the GA release rather than the preview. Okay, let's pop the hood on boundary expanded dynamic early exit. Everyone talks about early exiting in reasoning models as if it is simply a matter of checking for I'm done tokens. In practice, the technique requires inspecting a wider set of natural boundaries in the generated trace and learning which layers carry the most predictive signal at each boundary. The core idea starts with sentence and paragraph breaks, plus explicit self-doubt phrases, then adds repeated answer completion probes to label whether the prefix is already sufficient. Because different layers encode different kinds of uncertainty, the system learns a small subset of informative probe layers rather than reading every hidden state. This adds a modest calibration step at training time, but avoids the latency of full layer inspection at inference. The quality gain holds on math and coding benchmarks while cutting generated tokens by roughly 15 to 25% on the tested Qwen 3 reasoning models. The savings shrink once the model is already highly optimized. When your workload is dominated by long, self-verifying traces and you can afford a one-time calibration pass, boundary expanded early exit is worth testing. If your traces are short or the model family changes frequently, the engineering overhead outweighs the benefit. Test Qwen 3.8 Max through the current API for any multimodal retrieval or long context agent task you have been running on smaller models. Run the browser fork of Carpathy's Pelican on Bicycle Demo to experiment with visual consistency checks before building your own evaluation harness. Benchmark DeepSeek's new low-cost endpoint against your current provider on a representative high-volume workload. Explore the intrusion bench tasks released with Cogent VR1 if you are evaluating autonomous security tooling. Open waits for Qwen 3.8 Max are expected next week. Further details on OpenAI's Astra model and its math problem results are anticipated in coming announcements. Additional low-cost model releases from Chinese labs are likely to continue the price compression trend. More agent control plane tooling and governance runtimes are expected as production deployments scale. Before we go, the next wave of low-cost releases should clarify how far Chinese labs can push inference economics without new architectural disclosures. That's models and agents for today. If you found this useful, share it with someone who's trying to keep up with all these changes, and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's update. The AI world moves fast. We'll help you keep up. See you tomorrow. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at Nara Network. Links in the show notes. And before you go, this show is part of the Nara Network, a family of daily podcasts on tech, science, and markets, each one a short, sharp briefing you can finish on the commute. If today earned its place in your feed, here's your next listen. First Principles Daily. Reasoning from raw materials, not analogy, on the breakthroughs that actually cut cost. Find every show free at naranetwork.com. And on the website, every episode's visuals live in our free image gallery at naranetwork.com/gallery. Royalty free under Creative Commons, download with attribution. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.